Oh boy, we got a bit of a bombshell over the weekend, in fact, several, about how the Russians might have tried to affect the outcome of our election. Now, a lot of people are amazed by this, but if you follow the election, my answer to whether the Russians were trying to interfere with our elections is, of course! The question is how. And so the current outrage is about how they hacked into the DNC emails, the Podesta emails, and perhaps the RNC emails as well, but they didn't send those out because they favor Trump. I actually am more worried about whether they hacked into the voting booths and the voting system overall. Now, I'm going to get back to that in a second because I think that's a much more important issue. But first, let me give you the news from this weekend about the hacks that we knew about but now have more context on. Intelligence agencies, according to the Washington Post, have identified individuals with connections to the Russian government who provided WikiLeaks with thousands of hacked emails from the Democratic National Committee and others, including Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, according to U.S. officials. Those officials described the individuals as actors known to the intelligence community and part of a wider Russian operation to boost Trump and hurt Clinton's chances. In fact, the senior U.S. official told the Post, it is the assessment of the intelligence community that Russia's goals here was to favor one candidate over the other to help Trump get elected. That's the consensus view. Now, some people are saying, well, how do they know that? But it was right out in the open. First of all, Trump said during the campaign, hey, Russia, why don't you hack into Hillary Clinton's emails more and tell us all about it? He said it in front of everybody. Secondly, the Russians had, and WikiLeaks and none of the others had any other information about Donald Trump or the Republicans that they leaked at all. They were only leaking against Democrats. Now, I want to be very clear here. I think what they leaked was interesting and newsworthy anyway. So it's not to say because the Russians leaked it, we shouldn't discuss it. That's a totally separate issue. But were the Russians on Trump's side? Well, they praised him throughout the campaign, and he praised them, and he said basically that he doesn't mind that they took Crimea and thinks that we shouldn't get involved with them and we should let them do whatever they want in Syria. Of course they prefer Trump. That's not a breaking news story, if you ask me. Now, look, the fact that the CIA and other intelligence officials have concluded that they did this through the hacks and they connected it to Russian officials, well, that is news, and that's more evidence of what appeared to be happening right in front of us. Now, there's a little bit of note of caution on that too, though. Let me give you that. In the same article in the Washington Post, they say intelligence agencies do not have specific intelligence showing officials in the Kremlin directing the identified individuals to pass the Democratic emails to WikiLeaks, a second senior U.S. official said. Those actors, according to the official, were one step removed from the Russian government rather than government employees. Moscow has in the past used middlemen to participate in sensitive intelligence operations, so it has plausible deniability. Now, some folks on the left and right look at that and go, oh, you see that? There's no evidence at all. Yeah, but you weren't going to get an email from Vladimir Putin saying, okay, I now would like to hack Hillary Clinton. That is, what the hell kind of accent is that? I don't know what it is, right? It's not like he was going to write an email saying,
I jump in it.
That's a little bit better. Okay, give me the emails. Of course it's not going to come from Putin. And it is very unlikely to come from government officials. If the intelligence community has middlemen that they know have acted and apparently hacked on behalf of the Russian government before, that is not the only evidence in the world, and hence, okay, that's it. If the CIA said it, it must be true. No, I'm not in that camp. But that is some evidence, and they seem convinced that that was the case. In fact, later, there's a New York Times article later in the weekend saying that, no, those particular sources said the intelligence agencies have people inside the Russian government that authorized this, and that they did not leak the RNC emails, which they actually do possess, which that they did hack into. By the way, if they have secrets on the Republicans and they didn't release them, they would be able to use them for blackmail too. So, okay, now let me unleash here. I'm going to get to Trump's explanation and the rest of the story. But I'm so frustrated by almost every side in this conversation. So the Republicans who used to hate the Russians now all of a sudden love the Russians. Where the hell did that come from? Oh, they helped your candidate? All of a sudden, oh, Vladimir Putin, what a good guy. What a good guy. Russia, of course, always been allies with America. What are you talking about? So giant hypocrisy from Mitch McConnell and others. Now, others like McCain and Graham, to be fair to them, are saying, no, there's a huge cause for concern and we shouldn't trust the Russians. Okay, so that Republican bag is mixed. But you go to the liberal bag, and that is also mixed. So, there's a lot of progressives out there like, no. You're just using the Russians as boogeymen, and you have no evidence of anything. The Russians are like their intentions are like the driven snow. They're so pure. Why would Putin ever do anything wrong? America's always blaming it on the Russians. Hey, note to the guys in the commune, it's several decades later, they're not the Soviet Union, and you have no reason to defend Russia. It's led by Vladimir Putin, who is a right-wing authoritarian leader and has done a lot to crush democracy in Russia. Because the emails came from there doesn't mean you should ignore the emails. I'm not in that camp. And I'm not one to blame Russia for everything. That's, of course, ridiculous and demagoguery. But is it possible that they did the things that all these intelligence officials are saying they did, and that you can see with your own eyes during the primary? Of course, that's possible. No, don't blame Russia. No, I'm a liberal, don't blame Russia. Russia's totally fine. Russia would never do anything wrong. What century are you in? What decade are you in? No, of course the right-wing leader of Russia could do things wrong and has done many things wrong and clearly seemed to be on the side of the candidate who said, I'm going to let Russia do whatever the hell they want. And against the candidate who said, I won't. I'll put sanctions on them. It's not that complicated. So if you're a liberal or you're a conservative and you want to get mad at me because I said something about Russia or the beloved leader Putin, go ahead and get mad. Get really angry. Be like, oh my God, I can't believe you would question the motherland of Russia. Okay, yes, I question them. I question right-wing leaders all across the world, here at home in America, and yes, in Russia as well. So now the guy who doesn't question them, of course, is Donald Trump. When they ask him about this, he says, I don't believe they interfered. The hacking could be Russia, and it could be China, and it could be some guy in his home in New Jersey. I assume he's not talking about Chris Christie. So, of course, it's in his best interest to say, I don't know, but he received the intelligence briefings. Well, he doesn't attend most of the intelligence briefings and refuses to take them 5 out of 6 times, literally. But he knows. There's also stories out about how he definitively got a briefing saying it was the Russians. And he's like, I don't know, could be New Jersey. Could be New Jersey. For all I know, it's coming from Piscataway. So he's got more on that on TV here. Watch.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, that's it. I don't believe it. We're done with it. Okay. And by the way, I'm not in the Clinton camp either. I don't want you to get that wrong either. The Clinton camp, which says, oh, you see that? We would have won the election if it wasn't for the meddlesome Russians. No, you don't know that. You ran a terrible campaign. You didn't campaign in Michigan or Wisconsin. You were the no-change, pro-establishment candidate. You were running as the most unpopular person who has ever run for president, Donald Trump, and you lost to him anyway. No, the Russians very likely did this. But that doesn't let you off the hook. So if you're in the Clinton camp, you go ahead and get angry at me too, okay? All of you, go for it. Now, Trump also sends John Bolton, who now amazingly might be the number 2 person in charge of the State Department, and he sends him out there to say these kind of insane rants that you might have heard from Alex Jones before. Listen to this.
Well, that's why I say we have to know the facts here, and it's not at all clear to me, just viewing this from the outside, that this hacking into the DNC and the RNC computers was not a false flag operation.
Wait. What do you mean false flag operation? Do those exist in the world? Sure. But that means what? Hillary Clinton hacked herself and put out all those damaging emails about herself right before the election and blamed it on the Russians? I was against the Clinton team, but I'm not insane. You just, now in the world of this kind of conspiracy theories, you just say false flag and you walk away. People go, oh, yeah, that's probably a false flag. Think about it for a second. Why in the world would she do that? The State Department do that? The CIA do that? It's run by the Obama administration. Why would the Democrats leak stuff against themselves and cost themselves the election? Just to be able to blame it on Russia? It's just madness, man. And this guy, Bolton, now is going to be one of the most important people in the administration. All right, now let me tell you the guy who really did everyone in. It was Mitch McConnell. So they get the Homeland Security, CIA, National Security Intelligence officers. They get them all together. They go and do a presentation, bipartisan presentation to Congress. And they say, look, here's our evidence. So now it's classified, so we have these leaks, but to them, they showed them the evidence. A lot of Democrats and actually a lot of Republicans walked out of there shaking, going, ooh. And this was during the election. This was mid-September. So they said, the Russians are trying to interfere in our elections right now. And there was one guy who said, nope, not buying it. I don't care. And it was McConnell. So he's the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. Let me go to the Washington Post here. According to several officials, McConnell raised doubts about the underlying intelligence and made clear to the administration that he would consider any effort by the White House to challenge the Russians publicly an act of partisan politics. In other words, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate said, how dare you judge Vladimir Putin and Russia? No, I will defend them. And I will say that if you share the intelligence that you just showed us with the American public, who you're supposed to be working for, well, I'll say you're being partisan. And so I'll blame you guys for it. And why? Because he wanted to win the election. They gave him evidence that Russia's trying to throw the election in favor of the Republicans. A lot of the Republicans looked at it and go, that's terrible, and you give them credit for that. McConnell looked at it and thought, that's great. They're throwing the election for my team? Great. Throw away. No, I won't let you do it. I won't join the bipartisan effort to fight back. And Obama, of course, being Obama, was like, well, we need bipartisan consensus, otherwise I can't tell the American people what's actually happening. So he didn't say anything because McConnell wouldn't agree. Oh, Obama is maddening. We know that the Russians hacked into the emails. Okay. But did they hack the vote itself, the voting system? Well, this is where people go, oh, no, you don't know that, blah, blah, blah. Hold on now, hold on. Now, this is the part not being talked about enough in the Washington Post article. Near the end, they said, specifically, the White House wanted congressional leaders to sign off on a bipartisan statement urging state and local officials to take federal help in protecting their voting registration and balloting machines from Russian cyber intrusions. Wait a minute, that's 1,000 times more important. Because if you tell me, hey, they hacked the emails and they made some of the private emails public, okay, we got had, but that doesn't mean that the vote wasn't real and that, then the electorate had one-sided information, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Some Democrats are now trying to say that we should do a redo on the election based on that. I don't agree with that. But if they hacked into the vote, well, that's actually playing with the election itself, meaning we don't know who won. Then that's a whole different ballgame. Okay, so that's just one quote from that story. But I remembered from the primaries and from the general election too, from the whole year of campaigning, said, wait a minute, I remember a story coming out in August saying that the Russians had hacked into voting registration systems. I went back and found it. So here is that story. The FBI says it has found breaches in voter registration systems in Illinois and Arizona, and it's urging states to increase their computer security ahead of the November presidential election. This story is coming out in August. More. Hackers targeted voter registration systems in Illinois and Arizona, and the FBI alerted Arizona officials in June that Russians were behind the assault on the election system in that state. So that's not the CIA, that's the FBI. Remember the FBI that seemed to be favoring Trump by putting out these statements right before the election saying, oh, Hillary Clinton investigation might be reopened. But that's the FBI going, no, guys, hey, really be careful about your voting systems because the Russians are hacking into them and they already got through in Arizona and Illinois. Why is that not a bigger story? That's a giant story. So more on this. The Bureau described the threat as, quote, credible and significant. An 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, Matt Roberts, a spokesman for Arizona Secretary of State Michelle Reagan, said on Monday. By the way, he's a Republican. I'm sorry, she's a Republican. As a result, Reagan shut down the state's voter registration system for nearly a week. So that is not speculation. That happened. Now, how about on Election Day? So I'll get to my conclusion on it in a second, but I want you to know one more set of facts here. Michigan, the closest state, Trump won it by a little over 10,000 votes. Jill Stein asked for a recount, and the judges shut it down very recently. But before they did, they noticed during the recount some irregularities. So let me go to the Detroit News here. 1/3 of the precincts in Wayne County could be disqualified from an unprecedented statewide recount of presidential election results because of problems with ballots. Michigan's largest county voted overwhelmingly for Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, but officials couldn't reconcile vote totals for 610 of the 1,680 precincts during a county-wide canvass of vote results last month. That's a lot of ballots that don't match up. Let me give you more details. Most of those are in heavily Democratic Detroit, where the number of ballots in precinct poll books did not match those of voting machine printout reports in 59% of precincts, 392 of 662. Now look, there might be perfectly reasonable explanations for this. The optical scanners are old. Some of the ones that didn't match were off by just one ballot. But 59% is a big number. And why are the votes not matching? So you could look at that and go, it's probably nothing. But in the context of all of this, and maybe in this particular case, by the way, you don't know for sure, the thing that happened in Detroit might be nothing. But I'd want to investigate. So can we snap out of it and stop worrying about things that don't matter, like, oh, did the Russians cost Hillary Clinton the election by hacking and releasing emails? That's just Hillary Clinton's team feeling better that they get to blame the Russians. If they actually hacked a vote, that's a totally different animal. So just a couple more here from the Detroit News. According to state law, precincts whose poll books don't match with ballots can't be recounted. If that happens, original election results stand. Now, as it turns out, they stopped the recount in Michigan anyway. Why is it always judges that say, no, don't count to make sure we know who won? This drives me crazy. But in this case, if you have unmatching ballots and printouts, they stop counting and go to the original results. No, that's when you have a bigger obligation to count to make sure that something wrong didn't happen. Okay, more. County reports obtained by the Detroit News, though, indicate canvassers were provided no explanation for why the numbers didn't add up in those precincts. They certified the results of the election anyway. Investigate the vote. So I'm not in the camp that says, oh, I know the election was fixed. How would you know that? We haven't investigated yet. I'm also not in the camp of, so you have no evidence of it, so don't investigate. No, that's why you investigate, to see if there is or there isn't evidence. It's like seeing a dead body on the ground and going, well, there's no evidence of anyone who did it, so let's stop the investigation. No, that's when you start the investigation. You want to see, hey, why did they die? What caused that? No, there's no evidence of it. There's no evidence. That's because you didn't investigate. So what I'm asking people to do, I hope, is to actually use logic and say, hey, if there's a way to investigate whether there was hacking of the vote, as happened to the voting registration systems we already know in Arizona and Illinois, but it happened, let's investigate to see if that happened on Election Day. You want to investigate states that Hillary Clinton won too? Great, let's investigate all reasonable states. If you want, let's investigate all the states, because I want to know and make sure that the person who's president is the guy we elected. That's how a democracy is supposed to work. Whether they can do that before the electors gather on December 19th, that's an entirely different question. But I'm pro-investigation. And if it turns out that there's no problems at all, fantastic. I don't want democracy to have been hacked. I don't want elections to be untrustworthy. But we should do all we can to make them trustworthy, not just go, don't look into it, otherwise we might not like what we find. You know who makes independent media possible? You guys. Because of you, we can actually do this show free of any outside influence. That's what makes us so strong. Become a member today. tytnetwork.com/join. You are the media.